Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Coach Gary, and I want to thank you all for taking the time and spending this morning with me. We're going to be talking about doing a one-on-one, why I love to do one-on-ones, and excuse me, why they're important, and what do I say when I do a one-on-one. So before we get into the lesson today, I just want to share a couple things with you real quick to kind of let you know the importance of relationship marketing and what it really means. When you learn to ask questions of people and get them to talk to you, you're going to hear some things normally you would never hear if you were so busy trying to do a presentation and trying to keep in remembrance of the important things of your presentation, because you're not really listening to what those people really want. So the whole goal in relationship marketing is to find out, what do people really want? What's important to them to help them to move their lives forward? And you do that by asking questions. Okay, very, very important that you learn to ask questions and open them up to conversation. So we're going to get into the lesson real quick today, but before we do, I wanted to show you this. You know, one of my dreams, and I'm very passionate about this, is I just want to spend 2 years with my wife and I, just being a vagabond and traveling for 2 years straight, living out of suitcases and, in fancy hotels and things like that in different countries. So I wrote on this rock in stone, I'm going to say, I'm going to travel for 2 years. I wanted you to see that. See, I put it on my desk, travel for 2 years. And then back here, I wrote value and benefits to others. See, that's the ticket, is to help enough people get what they want, and you're going to get what you want. And I look at that stone every single day, and Ann Sig did this for me when I studied under her and went to Minnesota in one of her events. And I thought this was so wonderful to have this stone to travel for 2 years and keep that out in front of me. And I look at it almost every day thinking, my gosh, I just want to be a vagabond and really do that. Now, here's something that's crazy before I get into the lessons today. I've been so overweight all my life. And recently I'm changing how I think about eating, how I think about food, and I'm really eating healthier today. And I'm losing weight like crazy. I lost 25 pounds in the last couple of months, actually. And I've lost, oh my gosh, 4 inches off my waistline. And yesterday when we were visiting some friends, my wife actually took me shopping and bought me 4 of these weekender shirts, these island shirts here. And I went from a double X down to a XL. So I dropped 2 sizes. And I'm very excited about that because I want to be able to travel. I want to have my physical abilities to walk and sleep in a bed maybe that's not so firm that, I don't wake up in the morning with back pain. So being in good health and good physical condition is part of that passion and that goal of what I really want. It's not always about money. So, in my case, it's about better health. So I just want to share that with you. When you're leading into conversations and you're doing your one-on-ones, find out what people really want and learn to ask enough questions. You'll control the conversation by the questions that you ask. If I said to you this morning, do you like to travel? And you're going to start talking to me about, yeah, I like to travel. And then I'm going to go deeper with that questioning by saying, well, where would you like to travel to next? And you're going to say, well, Spain. And I'm going to go deeper with that conversation by saying, well, why would you pick Spain? And then you're going to tell me why that you would like to travel in Spain. You see, as I ask questions, and this is the power of this, I'm controlling the conversation. I'm asking leading questions, and then later we're going to talk about transitional questions. I am controlling the conversation by the questions I ask. So keep that in mind, write it down. If you want to control the conversation, right, and you want it to lead to something, you need to ask questions. Okay, I hope that helps you. All right, this is Coach Gary. Let's get going here. Okay, all right. Well, I got to start you off at the back of it. So I named this, I love to do one-on-ones, and I really do, but what do I say when I get in there? Now, Tony Robbins teaches this. Is a great, he's so smart, Tony Robbins. And he teaches that let your questions be your presentation. Wow. See, so many of us try to memorize a presentation and again try to think about what we're going to say, and we're so busy thinking about what we're going to say and what points we're going to make that we don't open up our heart and mind to listen to the other person. Tony Robbins got this down. He said, let your questions be your presentation. In other words, by asking questions, you're going to read into that person exactly what they want by finding out what they really want and if your opportunity is for them or not. Isn't that wonderful? It's such a beautiful way to really build a strong relationship. So target all your connections to a personal conversation. What do I mean by that? That simply says that everything's got to lead to a phone call, maybe a Viber call or a Viber call or a Hangout or a Skype, whatever it happens to be for you. It needs to lead to that personal conversation. And in that conversation, 80% of it needs to be listening by asking questions and getting people to talk to you. Now, the 10% is going to be about relating. Well, what does that mean? It simply means that you just can't sit, you want to be able to acknowledge them and approve what they're saying and encourage them to say more. You got to relate. That's 10% of it. The other 10% is connecting. Well, what does that mean? Well, you're connecting as you're talking, but you're going to connect as you further the relationship. So that could be connecting now and connecting in the future. So keep in mind the 80-10-10 rule here and write that down, okay? Now, I'm going to share a fun story with you. And I learned this from a master salesman years ago. And actually, he was sponsored into my business years ago. And I was working with him. And he took, I went with him to help him. Actually, he helped me. So I named it Small Talk is Big Talk. Okay, now when I first got into sales, I was very fortunate to learn from this guy. But he drove me nuts at first until I understood why he took so long in conversation. To me, everything he was saying seemed meaningless. Why was he talking in this small talk? How's the dog? How are the kids? How's the golf game? How's the tennis game? It just drove me nuts. I only wanted to make the sales and go home. I just want to get to the bottom line, sign here, let's go. And he just kept talking and talking and talking, which seemed forever. Now I'm a driver, bottom line guy, A-type. So I want to get the bottom line, sign it, and that was it. His name was Glenn, very nice guy, by the way. But he was one of the top realtors in his office. And we both got into Amway together, of course, over 30 years ago. And actually, he was in my downline, one of the top guys, by the way. And I went along with him that night to help him out. But the strange part about it was that Glenn, actually, let me correct this real quick. And Glenn started out the conversation by asking about the family and again, the kids, the dogs, and so forth. And when he asked about the guy's golf game, it seemed like the conversation lit up. I mean, I saw the smile on the guy's face. And they talked forever. This guy was really into golf, and so was Glenn. And one of the things we talk about and I teach is find something in common to talk about and talk in terms of their interests. Oh my gosh, that's going to take you down the road so fast, and you're going to connect so big, and your chances of converting are so high. But anyway, this guy loved golf, and he started describing his last golf game and shot by shot on every hole he took. And Glenn would just lean forward, and he'd listen to this guy as if he was playing the course with him, and it was like so funny to see those two guys go back and forth. I was bored to death. Oh my God, I was bored. I hated that conversation. I didn't want anything to do with that conversation. So that drove me nuts, okay? So Glenn just kept pouring on the questions, asking more detail, and God, this went on for an hour. Glenn simply leaned back in his chair and shared why he was doing the business. After the hours talk on golf, he just leaned back and said, hey, here's why I'm doing the business. What's important to me is that I get my retirement under control. And I just don't want to work until I'm 80 years old. I want to do some traveling and I want to have some fun. That was what Glenn told the guy. Within 15 minutes after the golf conversation, Glenn signed this guy up with a full big package, man. I was like shocked. Glenn just listened to everything his friend said, and he was living it personally with him as if they were on the golf course together, never talked anything about the business, and he just handed him the application, and the guy signed up. Both were amazingly engaged, enjoyed every word of it. So see, connecting is so powerful, all right? So did I learn to listen that night? Oh my God, you bet I did. From that night on, I stopped rehearsing my presentations, and I hope you do the same, and I started listening to people. Hear what I just said? I stopped rehearsing my presentations. I let it flow naturally, and I listened, and I let my questions, by listening and asking questions, my presentation was formed at the time of the discussion. Oh my gosh, my life changed. It was like seeing the light. It just changed. The crazy thing was I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more. I was more relaxed. I loved every minute of it. I really started creating more friends in my life. It was just so much fun. And nervousness went away. I didn't have to memorize a presentation. And half the time I didn't even like it anyway. I always was changing it and revising it. Folks, I was writing something that had no relationship to the person I was talking to. The presentation may or may not match. That's the key. It may not have even connected with the guy. But my gosh, by developing, the conversation and asking the questions, my presentation then was right on the money, okay? I was always afraid I would leave something out, but that's why I kept thinking about what I was going to say and not listening to the person. When I was a young corporate executive, in fact, in a company, and I was going up the ladder very fast, I really had some very, very wonderful people in my life. I remember this guy pulling me as a vice president in one of the divisions I was a controller over. I was an accounting guy. And he called me in and he said, Gary, one of the things that you need to do is listen more and talk less. And so it's kind of like a slap on the hands here a little bit from a guy that cared about me. And I said, you really? What do you mean, Jim? And he said, well, the more you listen to people, the more you find out what they want, the more your words and your conversation is going to make sense to them. And I thought, Jim, that I thanked him. I said, I wanted to hug the guy. I said, that really makes sense. So even in my corporate life, I learned that listening was more powerful than talking. Okay. So, and I'm going back a long time ago. All right. Here's a format I found to be so successful. I start the dialogue off by asking people, hey, before we talk about business, now I always want to qualify what we're going to talk about first. Write it down. Qualify what you're going to talk about. And then I isolate the fact about business. I set it aside because everybody wants to talk about business. And I said, look, before we talk about business, let's find out something about each other first. And everybody goes, oh, okay. Tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do for fun. What are your dreams? What are your passions? Let's talk about that. And I kind of give people, the format that we're going to be talking about, and people open up to that so easy. Each question led to another question, and each question got deeper with the questions as they engaged and as I got more involved with listening to them. We have really learned some amazing things about people by connections. And my connections grew stronger as the conversation grew longer. It was just a fact of life, so we really enjoyed it. So as the conversation grew longer, I'm going to put that word in here. All right. When I would ask them to tell me a little bit about themselves, I would hear everything from where they lived, where they worked, about their families. I loved hearing the stories, especially about, how they got married, how they met, what they did for fun, about their kids, their soccer games. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. This seemed crazy at first, and I would think that it it really doesn't work. But until you really try it, you have no idea how really well this works. Lynn was an excellent teacher. So I just want to lay that out there for you guys. Start the conversation about what do you do for fun? Let's talk about, tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for fun? So powerful. And if anybody comes at you with their work and everything in the beginning, say, look, let's set that aside for now. I'm really interested in that, but I want to find out about you. Tell me a little bit about yourself. What do you do for fun? Very powerful. And then when you get into, hey, what about your dreams? What are you really passionate about? Those things become very, very important. My gosh, you know exactly how to present. Talk about the power of persuasion. Very powerful here. Never told Glenn how much I learned from him that night 30 years ago. Listening to him, and maybe he'll read this article when I post it on social media. Glenn would further the conversation by asking other questions like, hey, what got you interested in golf? People really engaged with Glenn. I saw something really miraculous happen in my life from that night. I remember taking a Dale Carnegie course, and one of the main principles I learned was talk in terms of other people's interests, So very cool. I had to take a course on that and listen to Glenn to finally get that. It took me a long time to get that, So I found this picture. I thought it was cute. Look how intently this little girl was listening. Isn't that good? All right. It's like, I want to hear everything, you know. I knew if I can get someone to talk enough about themselves, I had a good chance of winning them over, persuading them. The power of persuasion is so powerful. The next principle is relating. What does that mean? Asking them tons of questions. Don't get carried away like a machine gun. Relate. Stop for a minute, breathe a little bit, say, look, you know, hey, I can relate to that. That's all. I used to say, look, I can relate to that. I get that. I understand that. What you want to do is kind of repeat and approve. Write that down. Repeat and approve what they're saying by repeating it. Oh, you want to move to Arizona? Why? That sounds great. You want to move? See, I repeated it. I approved it. Why? Oh, really? I'd like to do that. See, I approved it. You see, repeat and approve. Write that down. Connection to weaken as opposed to strengthen. Relating shows you're engaged and that you're listening. The body language is so important here because it shows people how engaged you are with them. Now, it's crazy, but people could read body language over the phone. Body language is very important. If you're sitting across with them at a coffee shop, you're looking them at the eyes, you're sitting up straight, you're leaning forward. Body language is so important to people when you're engaged with them. Okay. On the phone, they'll listen to your size, your tonality, you know, how you're talking with them, you know, if you're relating with them, if you're commenting back to them. So body language is there whether you're in person or whether you're on a phone. And you can't really get a lot of body language out of messaging. That's why it's got to come to a conversation of some sort, either live or on the phone or on Google Hangouts or Skype or Viber, whatever you're using. Okay. So doing the one-on-one conversations, look them in the eye, lean forward on the phone, get excited, comment regularly, okay? Really get engaged in what they're interested in. Now, here's a good tip for you. Don Gabor is a great friend of mine, and I met him, I read his books, and I called him one night and talked to him in length and told him how much I appreciated him because he was one of the books that Amway gave me when I first started out, oh my God, 30 years ago. And he gave me a book called How to Start Conversations and Make Friends. Well, Don's book is a classic. I didn't realize this, but the night I was talking to Don on the phone, he told me that Amway recommended his book for over 15 years as required reading. Now, think about that. That was required reading, you know. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to learn in that book about engaging and starting in conversations, very, very powerful. And think about Amway today, a $12 billion company, okay? So understand where those teachings came from. You're going to get the book if you buy that book. And it's still on Amazon today. So I recommend that's a great book for you to read. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm an advocate of that book. I'm a Dale Carnegie fan. I'm one of his graduate students. Power and Confidence in Dealing with People, another great book to read. All of those are good books to read, okay? As a conversation goes forward, make sure you are relating and sharing back to your guest and make them feel comfortable. Share a small story to confirm their story. Sometimes a little small story here and there really kind of kicks up the conversation and gets it more exciting and moves it forward. Take control over the prospect or the guest. You will lose their interest. So do not take control over them. Let them talk. Okay, look how exciting these two guys are. Look at his face. Isn't that cool? By relating, you are now bonding and building a strong connection. This may take time, however, it's worth it. This connection may be interested in you, in your friendship, in your business, whichever the case may be. And even if he's not interested in your business, he could be a great referral partner, and he could be somebody downstream. Now, I just got an email from a guy that's going up at another company. I just met this guy. I love this guy. And he just got back from Africa for 6 weeks. And of course, he wants to talk to me about his opportunity. And I just said to him, you're one of my favorite people in life. I am so proud of you. I love your success and what you're doing. You found what you love to do the most. I'd love to talk with him and hear about it. And I'm not going to sell him, okay? But I'm just going to listen to him and be there for him as he shares his stories of success. There's going to be a time when something changes. I promise you. And that's the time I'm going to say, hey, Matt, you know what? I really would love to work with you. I think there might be something here that could interest you, could be what you're looking for, maybe get you up the ladder a little further. Would you be interested? See how cool that is? The timing was right for him to say, well, what is it, Gary? Okay. Now, if he's going up the ladder and he's helping a lot of people, and I start talking about my opportunity, he's not going to listen. The timing's not right. But by being a friend to him and having his connections, I call this the golden Rolodex of life. When you get top successful people and become friends with them, down the road, things changed. And you don't know, it could be 3 months, 6 months, a year. And all of a sudden you're connecting with these high-powered people that are diamonds, double diamonds, triple diamonds, whatever they are. And you got a golden Rolodex, and it makes all the difference in the world. They call you up and say, hey, listen, I just found something I think could really mean a lot to us and our families. I thought maybe you might want to look at it. I know you're doing very well where you're at. Would you be open to looking at it at this time? And if they say no, they're happy and tell you how great their thing is, just listen and be quiet. 6 months down the road, as you get further along and more successful, then you go back and talk to them. Sometimes they just want to see what you do with it. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Your success could be the door that they're looking for to get into the business. Every relationship that turned into a friendship was nurtured and cared for. Nothing really came over from a one-time meeting. I'm telling you, nothing ever came out of a one-time shoot it all, spill the beans type meeting. It just never happened. Okay? Unless it was providence. I mean, the person was really looking, they were down on their life, they're saying, oh my God, I've been praying. That could happen. No question about it. That one-step approach, that pull the trigger, share the opportunity, they get it. Does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. Okay? But it doesn't happen a lot. So you got to be very discerning as to whether it's to pull the trigger or not at that point. So, okay, connecting and staying in touch, building and creating long-term relationships. Don't let those relationships go by the door. A lot of people, if they're not interested in the business, drop them cold. A lot of the companies teach that today. Next, go on. I hear that all the time. And really that teaching was to help you to be motivated and get over your fear. But really what it did is it hurt you because you could be dropping prospects through the cracks that could be some of your best people in your business. Let me tell you something, folks. The best people are not in your business yet. As you start gaining momentum and creating success and connecting and relating to people, the best people will come to you as you start this process. It's a lifelong process. Your wealth creation is in the relationships that you build. Let me say that again. Your wealth creation is in the relationships that you build. Okay? So one-on-ones are very, very important here. This is probably the best, most powerful teaching I can give you, and yet it's the most simple that I can give you. 10% connecting. You connect while engaging in the conversation. However, the greatest connection is staying in touch. Let me say that again. The greatest connection is staying in touch. Some of the strongest connections I have had, I've ever had, were listening and caring enough to people's challenges. And I just told you the story about Matt. We all have them. One of the questions I ask all the time, if I'm listening to somebody and I just kind of get that vibe that something's not going right, I'm going to ask them this crazy question. What are your challenges? What are your immediate challenges? What would you like to resolve right now? That opens the door. And this is what I call not only a leading question, but a transitional question. What are your challenges? What would you like to solve right now? If you could snap your fingers, have the perfect life, tell me about it. If you could snap your fingers, have the perfect calendar, tell me about it. If you had 6 months to live, what would you do differently than what you're doing right now? I ask those type of questions in one-on-ones. I really do. And I learned so much about people. People open up to me because I ask the right questions. And when somebody feels comfortable enough to share them with me, I am honored. I take it seriously. It's a privilege that these people opened up. I respect it. As a conversation develops, I find a connection, usually a common interest. I feel the time is appropriate. I then ask this one question. May I ask, what challenges are you facing right now? You'll be amazed at what they do, what they say. I can tell you story after story. I can keep you here for hours. I only have one thought in mind at this point. It's the opportunity right for them. Can my opportunity solve their challenges and their problems? That's what I want to know. Okay? I softly ask, are you open to hearing about something I think could help you? I think you'd be perfect for it. I don't know if you would think that, but I think maybe you might think that. I almost never, you know, this is crazy. I've never been told that when I talk to them in these terms. And I use this point. I posture them by saying, hey, if this is not for you, I understand. It takes the pressure off them. It allows them to breathe and relax. It shows them that you care. Then share your personal story with them. That's all it is. Hey, this is why I'm looking at it. It may not be for you, but here's how it's helping me. I think it would be great for you. I don't know if it'd be great for you, but I think it would be. You might want to take the time to look at it. I think it's worth your time to evaluate it to see if this might be the solution to your challenges. See, I never sell them. Only share my challenges and how the opportunity has helped me. That's your testimony. That's your story. Hey, didn't I just start out by telling you how excited I am? I dropped two shirt sizes and pant sizes and 4 inches off my waist and 25 pounds. I'm like so fired up and excited about that. I'm going to go on my 2-year traveling, and I'm going to be able to walk without pain and sleep on beds I know aren't good for me. Okay. I think that's wonderful. Oh my gosh, that hope again. Okay. When you bring hope to people, friends, you're going to bring a smile on their face. You're going to look in their eyes, in their very soul, and you're going to see something light up in them. If you follow these practices and go through this and watch it 2 or 3 times, you know it's always recorded. It's on my website. You know it's on my channel. If you follow my channel, I am going to change my channel to 30 Minute Millionaire. I will announce that later if you're following me and subscribing to me on YouTube, okay? And my IT guy said I had to change it, okay? I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for, for Google. Okay. After sharing my story and opportunity, I always ask if they can see themselves solving their challenges. What a great one. You know, that's like putting them in the business. Can you see this solving your problems and your challenges? Do you think this might work for you? And if they have questions or concerns, this is a perfect time to isolate them and address them. Wow. You see, when you come from a position of, will this help you? Can this solve your problems? Wow, is that cool or not? Okay. Listen, I just want you to do some research of the opportunity, see if this makes, make sure that this is right for you, right? That's all you're doing. The method has brought me some of the most talented people. Listen to what I'm saying, folks. Some of the most talented people and people who became my friends are also great leaders, all right? So what I shared with you, okay, about what Glenn shared with me, very powerful, why small talk was so important. And on the way home, I would just say, hey, Glenn, why all the small talk? As we were driving home, Glenn just smiled at me and just handed me the application. That's all he did. I got it. I knew what he was saying. That relationship being formed and being built and talking in terms of other people's interests is the reason he was able to sign that guy up. And so many people, as he was the #1 person in my business, signed up more people than anybody else. Okay, the guy was a giant. Okay, so what if you only allowed yourself 30 minutes for a discussion and the person is an expressive and he likes to talk? Why don't you at the beginning qualify this? Please explain before you start meeting, you only have 30 minutes. So if it goes any longer than that, he's not put out. And say, look, I don't have time now, but I am so glued to what you're saying. Listen, can we reschedule this for another time? I want to continue this. Folks, that'll make all the difference in the world. So just be polite to people and hear them out. Listen to them. I know sometimes it's hard as a driver to listen to an expressive or an amiable type person, but it's really, you have to talk the way they talk and the way they listen. You have to be patient enough to do that. All right, so there's several ways you can get a hold of me. It's all right here. Okay, go sign up to 30 Minute Millionaire. Get on my mailing list. You're going to find all my coaching, all my teachings, all there. A lot of what I teach is free. It's open to everybody every week. I appreciate you taking the time with me. I thank you for the articles. We're going to stop sharing. I'm going to give you one message real quick. If you will really spend a lot of time connecting with people and listening and asking the questions, you'll never have to worry about a presentation. And that small talk where you talk in terms of other people's interests and bond with them and find what's in common with them. Okay, so if you like horseback riding and they like bowling, folks, you need to talk about bowling. All right, I'm serious. If you like to play tennis and they like to play golf, then you better be talking about golf. And if you talk in terms of those interests and you open up to them and you listen to them and you relate to them, you're going to connect in a huge, powerful way. And every person that you talk to could lead you to somebody else. And every person you talk to, if the timing is not right then, could be the timing could be right later. So every person you talk to is important to you. It's important to them. Keep every conversation a conversation, seriously, a conversation of liking and trusting and working and developing that relationship and nourishing it forever. And you're going to see a huge difference in your sponsoring. You're going to see a huge difference in your client following. You're going to see a huge difference with your customers. When you don't have time for them, they don't have time for you. When you have time for them, they have time for you. Just keep that in mind. This is Coach Gary signing out. See you next week. Enjoyed you being here. I really appreciate you. Love you. Hey, remember, I want you to have a better way to a better life by forming better relationships. That's what it's all about. Bye-bye now. God bless.